One of the hardest things in fostering, it isn't the children. It's when you raise a concern for them and suddenly you become the concern. When asking questions or advocating is quietly reframed as you're difficult, it can shake your confidence and it can cause you to want to silence your voice. Today, I want to talk about what happens when professional disagreement is mistaken for misconduct, and how we can stay grounded in our faith when this happens. In the last episode, we talked about advocacy and how doing the right thing for a child can sometimes come at a personal cost. Today, I want to talk about something that many carers experience, but rarely feel safe to name. And that's when professional disagreement is mistaken or often labelled as misconduct. And this is not a conversation about blame, but it's about understanding what happens when carers, when we are able to speak with clarity inside systems that don't always know how to receive that. For all of us foster carers, we are told that we must work as part of the team, and we absolutely do. But what happens when being a part of that team means we have to ask questions? We have to challenge plans around the children. We have to raise safeguarding concerns. And what happens when we might disagree with decisions that actually affect the child's well-being? For some carers, this is where things begin to shift. This is when the tone changes within that team dynamic, when emails become shorter or even non-existent. Involvement becomes really limited, and slowly the advocacy that becomes reframed as being difficult to work with. As adults, we need to understand that disagreement, it does not equal misconduct. But in hierarchical systems, it can feel threatening to those systems when we do ask questions, when we do challenge the plans. So why do these systems struggle so much when they're being challenged? And I want to say this, it's not just the social system that faces these challenges. Anything that is built on these foundations feels challenged. And I lived these systems whilst I was also in the army. The systems are exactly the same. There's just different people and different labels. So let's gently name what's happening underneath the systems. These systems, they are built on structure, processes, authority, compliance, and often just a tick box exercise at the cost of real lives. So when a foster carer holds lived knowledge of a child and challenges, or has questions about the decisions around the child, or when a foster carer holds another adult accountable to their part in the child's life, or even just simply asking for support for the child and refusing to agree to plans that don't actually have the best child's interest, well, that it disrupts the comfort of the hierarchy. Not because it's wrong, but because it introduces accountability and it highlights people's flaws. And sadly, people don't want to be highlighted for their inadequacy. They don't want to be highlighted when they don't do the things that they say they're going to do. They don't want to be shown up as somebody who doesn't follow through when they say they're going to do something. I've had many social workers who have been absolutely incredible and followed through on everything that they say they're going to do for the child and gone above and beyond. But I've also had several who completely shut down, who don't want to engage when you've raised the fact that they haven't actually done the things that they said they were going to do, which has then come at a cost to the child. And sadly, I've worked with a few social workers who have completely ghosted me and the children that they're supposed to be in charge of, the local authority parent. I've experienced when the other adults don't turn up to meetings, don't answer their emails, don't want to have any involvement with you or the child because you challenge them, because you call them to a higher standard. It's sad that the social workers are allowed to behave in this way, because if we were to ignore them and behave in the same manner as them, it'd be us that would be punished. But instead, they're allowed to pick and choose as to whether it suits them. They're allowed to just leave their current job and just move into a different role, whether that's in a different agency or a different local authority. And sometimes it can feel unfair. Sometimes it can feel one-sided. But what I've come to learn is sometimes for social workers, it's easier for them to try and silence carers than to listen to feedback and actually grow from that feedback. So as carers, it's really important not to allow social workers to silence you, but instead to let yourself grow in those situations. This is where carers can slip into feeling like, I'm being judged for caring, I'm being too much, things are not fair on the child, when you're constantly being silenced. But instead, I invite you to say to yourself, I will not be silenced, and the children in my care won't suffer because of a failing adult. I will learn who I am and grow through this situation. I will learn and use the systems and support around me to ensure a healthy outcome from this situation. It might just look like praying. It may look like speaking to an IRO or a supervising social worker. But whatever you do, do it professionally. Hold yourself to that higher standard and don't allow your emotions to fuel the conversation. Allow the facts to do the talking. We already have a lot to deal with emotionally, and this has a huge impact on us as carers. So let's not add more emotional weight to our already heavy plate. Being misunderstood as a foster carer, it can feel heavy, so we're not going to add extra burdens to that. You're already trying to regulate trauma. You're already holding behaviours and emotions of other people. You're advocating in meetings, but you also have to protect yourself, your home, and your family. So when your integrity is being questioned, simply because you spoke up, it can shake your confidence deeply. And it can cause carers, when they experience a knock in their confidence, to start second guessing themselves, to not trust their instincts, to soften their voice to stay safe. You start holding concerns quietly instead of raising them. And that silence, that doesn't protect the children. That protects the systems, the adults who are afraid of accountability, adults who don't know how to manage themselves and their emotions. And let's be honest, we are not here to protect other adults. We must encourage hard conversations, even if it makes the other adults uncomfortable. Having hard conversations, that is one of the strongest things that you can do. And it's going to be one of the biggest ways that you can grow as well as a foster carer, but also as a professional in this role. It allows you to stay grounded. It allows you to stay competent and confident in who you are, but also knowing that your faith will carry you through this as well. And my faith has helped keep me grounded many a times. Having faith, that doesn't mean that I'm agreeable or weak. It doesn't mean that I'm going to stay silent just to keep the peace for the sake of other adults. Faith doesn't mean I'm going to step back when God has placed big responsibility into my hands. No, my faith allows me to move with discernment. My faith allows me to understand the power that my words have and how to effectively use my voice. Faith is my moral courage to keep doing the right thing. My faith is my obedience even when approval from others disappears. I know I'm not going to be liked by everybody, and I'm okay with that. I don't need to try and be liked by other adults. I just need to do the best I can for the children in my care. I need to stay anchored in who I am through Christ and how I can love more like Christ. And scripture, that reminds us in Proverbs 1:5, the wise listen and add to their learning. But sometimes wisdom isn't always welcomed, especially when it comes from foster carers rather than other professionals. And in those moments, God becomes the steady place that we can stand in when the human systems that we're working in, when they feel unstable, wobbly, capable of failing and falling apart right underneath our feet. So if you have ever felt labelled for advocating, pushed aside after raising concerns, afraid to question decisions, if you've ever felt misunderstood for speaking your truth, the children's truth, I want to say this gently. You are not failing. You are not overstepping. You are not imagining the shift between you and the local authority or whomever the adults are around that children. You are doing what safe adults do, and you are protecting the child that you care for. And there is a huge difference between being difficult and being discerning. And discernment often feels uncomfortable to systems that prefer ease, that prefer a yes man, who prefer to keep us small and without a voice. But this episode, it's not about encouraging you to go out and have confrontations with all the people that are not doing the right things at the right time. It's not a conversation that encourages arguments, fighting for who's right. But this conversation is about encouraging steadiness within you, showing that we are strong adults, not just strong in our opinions, but strong in our character, in our resilience, and also in our professionalism. You can speak calmly, you can stay regulated, and you can hold your boundaries and trust your instincts. When you can anchor into your faith without hardening your heart or losing compassion, God sees your heart posture. He hears your voice. Even when others misread it, He knows. And don't forget, there is so much power in your voice, but you have to learn how to use it the right way. So yes, professional disagreement should never come at the cost of advocating for a child. But when it does, we are the ones who take the emotional hit. We are the ones who have to carry that. And if this is something right now that you are living, that you are navigating through, I hope this episode reminds you that your voice has value, even when you feel misunderstood. And more than anything, I hope it anchors you back into your faith when the systems feel shaky. But know that you are not alone in this. And if you would like to have prayer over your current situation, over your family, or something else that you may be facing right now, visit us at fosteringkingdoms.com and get in touch. We would love to pray with you, because we know that there is power in prayer and there is power in numbers. If you're not seeking prayer but want to stay connected with us, stay for the next episode.